Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs and today I have this really fun A2 card to share with you. So let's jump right in. So to start we are going to cut down some cardstock. I'm going to make an A2 sized card which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 and I'm going to trim down my black mat. So my black mat is about an 1/8 of an inch smaller than my A2 base, and then I'm going to cut down a piece of distressed watercolor cardstock, and that's going to be about 1/4 of an inch smaller. So you get about an 1/8 of a line around the whole card base. Sorry guys, I am tired. It's been a long week. So I am going to create my background. And so I brought out the moon mask, and this is I think the second size. Excuse me. There's 3 sizes in the package, and this is the middle size. And I really wanted to use some repositionable adhesive. Now, I don't generally use my Tombow mono multi-glue for this, but it is repositionable when it's dry. So I just kind of wanted to show this as an alternative to pixie spray if you don't have any and you happen to have this Tombow mono multi-glue. If you let it dry, it is repositionable. So I thought that was pretty neat, and I've had it for a long time and just thought that I would try it, because why not? So I put it all over the moon mask and then let the moon mask completely dry, and then I adhered it to my cardstock where I wanted the moon to be in the sky. So I'm going to bring in several colors of the mica spray and 1 color of spray stain. So for the mica sprays, I'm using Burning Ember, which is one of the new colors, Hocus Pocus, which is an older color, and Fortune Teller. And you can see that the cardstock is very saturated here. I added a lot of color, and I love it. So this is like a testament to distressed watercolor cardstock because it held up so well with this crazy amount of water that I added. And you did see that I added some water just to help the colors move a little bit. And I really concentrated the Burning Ember around the moon because I wanted to do this kind of effect where the color goes into the moon. So I also brought in Villainous Potion, and that just went around the the whole perimeter of the outside, just to add a little more darkness to it. And then once I lifted my mask up, I brought in my water again, and I just lightly misted the moon area of my background. And then I brought in my heat tool again right away, just to make sure that the color didn't keep moving, because you kind of almost have to freeze it, for lack of a better term. You almost have to freeze it because you need to stop the color from continually moving. So I did bring that in right away, and then I just kind of started to heat set all of my color so that I could kind of lock in where it was sitting. So I love how this moon turned out. I literally only did the 1 layer of color. You could go back and add more. I'm not going to. I'm really happy with how that turned out. So I just kind of set it aside to finish drying, and then I'm going to bring in the Mischievous dies by Tim Holtz. This is the cat set of dies. I tried to use them in a different card a little while ago, and it didn't work out. So the one you see sitting on the bottom right corner, I cut out last time I was trying to make a card, and I didn't use it. So I thought that it would be really fun to add into this card. So I brought out another one of the cats, and I'm just cutting them out of black glitter cardstock. And I did try to use my mint tape to hold my dies down. It didn't really work on the glitter cardstock. I was really lucky they didn't shift, so it wasn't a really big deal. But as a general rule, I do try to kind of tack my dies down so they don't shift around. I'm running out of black glitter cardstock, so you can see I have little scraps here. So had it shifted and not cut nicely, I would have kind of been SOL because I don't have any more. But it worked out. It was okay. Just that the mint tape really doesn't do anything there. But I did also cut the bodies of the cats out twice more in the black cardstock I used for my mat. So this was just a leftover piece I had trimmed off of the piece I had earlier. And I cut 2 pieces just because I wanted to layer up my cats and give them a little more dimension. This is very subtle. I mean, if you wanted more dimension, you could, of course, add more of these layers, or you could add foam tape, whatever you prefer. But I just really wanted to add some dimension, but a kind of a subtle amount so that they didn't take the focus away from the background, but that they were able to stand with the background because the background is so vibrant. I wanted them to have a little more weight. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Sometimes I wonder if I'm explaining anything very well. And then I'm going to adhere my layers together. So I just brought in my Barely Art glue because it has that super fine tip, and the tails on these cats and the necks can be a little bit tricky because they're so thin. But this also kind of helps the cats have a bit more stability as well, because that glitter cardstock is quite thin in comparison. I don't even think it's a 60-pound weight, to be honest with you. And then this black matte cardstock I think is like 100 or 110 pound. So it also gives stability to these really fine pieces on these cats, which I think is just phenomenal. So that also kind of has that side benefit too, as well, giving them some extra dimension. So I did adhere all of my layers together, and then for the extra heads, which I cut out of the same black glitter cardstock, I brought in some thin 3D foam squares, the black ones, and just adhered them right on top. Now, again, this is going to give a very subtle amount of dimension. If you wanted more, again, of course, you could cut more layers of the head, or you could use a thicker foam square to kind of add that. But this is honestly meant to just be a little bit more subtle and just kind of give it like the heads are separate from the body, which, I mean, they are because they are die cut, but it just gives a more of an illusion that that's an extra piece and it's not just all one small piece. So hopefully that kind of, you can see that when I held it up there, it was just a little bit easier. And then I brought in the stamp set, the Noteworthy stamp set by Tim Holtz. Again, you guys, this is kind of like an ode to Tim Holtz. I think pretty much everything on this is Tim Holtz, from Tim Holtz line of stuff. But I thought this sentiment was fitting. Now, of course, you could absolutely do a Halloween sentiment, because this is a very Halloween-esque card, but I generally don't send Halloween cards. So to me, I would rather have a sentiment that's a little more versatile. So I did go with every adventure is worthwhile, which I think is super fitting and just really, really cute. And honestly, and you guys are probably going to think I'm a little bit cheesy, but as I was making this, I totally thought of this being my husband and I. If you guys don't know, we have 5 cats. We like to work with rescues. We haven't been able to since we moved, but we used to work with our local SPCA all the time. And I just kind of looked at this as like my husband and I sitting on this adventure and just enjoying what life is kind of bringing towards us. So I thought that was super cute. And it made me smile while I was making the card. So I thought it was kind of fitting. So I did white heat emboss the sentiment on a same black cardstock that I used on the mat and the backs of the cats. And then I cut it down to just kind of be a really thin label size. Now I'm going to adhere it to the bottom of the card. So I kind of tried to center it here as best as I could from eyeballing it. And then I'm going to bring in my tiny attacher and use that. I love this tiny attacher. I just think it's so fun. It's a tiny staple. Like, how can you go wrong? I don't know. It just makes me smile. And this card, like the whole of this card pretty much just made me smile. So I was pretty excited about it. And then I am going to adhere my layers together now that my little tiny attacher has put the sentiment on. And again, you don't need this. You could have used foam squares. You could have adhered it flat down without the tiny attacher. I just think it's a cute little added element that just brings a little bit of something extra to the card. But it's not necessary. So whatever you have totally works. You guys know I'm a big believer of using what you have in your stash. So, and I did bring in my Misti just to weigh down the panel while it was gluing, just because it did warp a little. Not as bad as I thought it was going to, because I added a lot of moisture to this card, but it actually held up really well, which is probably why I like Distress watercolor cardstock so much, because it just can take so much moisture and still keep trucking. Like, it didn't start to pill or do anything weird. So I am always appreciative of my supplies that do what they're supposed to do no matter what I throw at them. And this watercolor cardstock certainly does that. So I adhered it to my base, and then I'm going to adhere my cats down. And I did kind of have this planned out. I knew that I wanted the one that's kind of leaning. I don't even know if that's what the position you'd call the one I'm holding in my hand here. I knew that I wanted that one to kind of be perched on top of the word every, so I lined up the legs to kind of fit between the words and around one of the letters, so you can still read it, but it's as if the cat's actually sitting on that label, just to kind of give the cat some ground so it didn't look like it was floating in the air, which if you didn't add something for it to sit on would kind of look like that. So I just really attempted to make it look like it was grounded. And then I'm going to adhere the second cat right beside the first. right in front of that moon, just because I don't know, it just makes me smile. I love cat themed things. They just make me happy. So this is just right up my alley. So then of course I had to add a little bit of black bling because no card is complete unless you add a ton of bling. So I brought in some of the Pink Fresh Studios Essential Jewels. That's why it's in that little round container. I have been asked about that before. You can buy the colors separate if you prefer, and then you don't have to get the little round holders. You get just a package of the gems, which is pretty cool too. So that is the card I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll consider leaving me a like, leaving me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday, and I have some interesting stuff coming. So I hopefully will see you guys again very, very soon. Bye for now.